Darren Till moves up to middleweight to face Kelvin Gastelum in the co-main event of UFC 244 at Madison Square Garden. This is the battle camp. Please hit the subscribe button. You'll find it in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So this fight is a main event caliber fight for me, and just the fact that we're gonna watch this and then we're gonna see Jorge Masvidal against Nate Diaz straight after is fucking giving me butterflies. But let's focus on this fight first. So let's look at Darren Till first, right? So Darren Till, obviously, so he's fought his entire career at welterweight. He's lost his last two fights. He lost to Tyron Woodley and then he lost to Jorge Masvidal, as we all know. He's moving up to middleweight, which is something that everyone in the industry, MMA community, have all said that he should be a middleweight. He's way too big to be cutting all of that weight to come down to welterweight. I made a video when this fight was announced basically saying, what the fuck, all right, fair enough, he's moved up to middleweight, but to fight Kelvin Gastelum, like, who are his advisors? Who's telling him to do this? Why are the UFC letting him do this? Blah, blah, blah. I had a right moan. Now that we're here, now that we're a few days away from the fight, I'm fucking glad he's doing it. I'm glad he's got the balls. I'm glad he's a gorilla. I'm glad that he's willing to take a risk. I'm glad that he's willing to essentially put his career on the line as he knows it at this moment. Because if he loses this fight, there'll be a rebuilding process that needs to happen. But he's willing to risk that to basically come in and fight a top 5, maybe a top 3 middleweight and stake his claim in that division. Now, I listened to an interview he did a few months ago with Ariel Helwani, where he spoke about how when he fought Tyron Woodley, he felt a little bit too flat behind the scenes, backstage in his dressing room, and he felt that kind of started how he went on in the fight, and he didn't really feel himself in the cage. And then he said he felt like he overcompensated against Jorge Masvidal, and he was too hyped when he fought Masvidal, and that's what led to him making the mistake that he did that ended up with him getting knocked out. Now, obviously, that is a little bit of a concern for me, because I feel like, obviously, they always talk about how the fight game is 90% mental, and if he's not able to control himself from a mental and emotional standpoint, then he's not going to get the best version of himself in the cage. Now, before he beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Donald Cerrone, before that, he obviously he beat decent level fighters, but they weren't the top of the top. They weren't the elite fighters that he's ended up fighting since, and he's lost those 2 fights. So there's also a chance that Darren Till just isn't as good as what we think he is. I don't really believe that. I genuinely believe that he is at the right level. He's fighting the right level of opponents. I'm just a little bit wary of the fact that he's stepping up into a new weight class. It'll be a new experience for him in terms of the extra weight that he's going to be carrying. He's going to be fighting a guy that's also a middleweight, so he's physically bigger than Kelvin Gastelum, but I think he's used to being physically stronger than his opponents. I'm not sure whether that will be the case, because Kelvin Gastelum is not only strong, but his core discipline is wrestling. And as a wrestler, you know how to use your body weight, and that might be something that he struggles with. I know it's only a 3-round fight, but with the extra weight, will that sap his energy from him? Will carrying the extra weight and fighting against someone like Kelvin Gastelum, who's fast, who's got good movement, who can wrestle when he needs to, will that take his energy away from him? Will he struggle? However, on the other hand, maybe he'll be able to. He won't struggle from a gas tank point of view, because he's not cutting all that extra weight. I suppose the point I'm trying to make is there's so many variables and unknowns, and to test yourself in a new weight class against someone like Kelvin Gastelum, I mean, you just got to take your hat off to the guy. You genuinely have to say, fuck me, well done. You've got fucking massive balls. Like, literally, there's no other way of looking at it, man. This is a massive risk that he's taking, and he's willing to risk it because he, at the end of the day, believes in himself. He believes in his own abilities. Kelvin Gastelum, on the other hand, I've always questioned his heart and desire as a martial artist, because let's face it, he's got that extra weight around his belly. He should be a welterweight. He should be fighting at 170 pounds. The amount of times he missed weight that was like a discipline issue, and that's a desire issue. That's someone that, how much do you actually want it? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously he wasn't really applying himself as well as he could have during training camp with his diet and his training, that he kept missing weight. And I felt like I used to feel like that kind of also translated into his into how he fights, because I felt like he allowed himself to get to feel the mental strain within a fight and not perform, like, as in, he didn't finish a fight performing at the same level he did at the start of the fight, if that makes sense. And I felt like if his opponent started getting the better of him, that would, like, doubt would almost creep into his game. And I feel like he proved me fucking wrong against Israel Adesanya, because there was none of that in that fight, and all he did was show heart and grit and determination. And I don't know whether that's just him maturing. I don't know whether that was just on that night he just was in the zone, and he hit the right gear, and he just didn't know how to quit. And I'm not saying he's a quitter. I'm not saying that he always quits or whatever. I'm just saying that, like, that self-doubt, that element of self-doubt when he was getting hurt by Israel Adesanya, I didn't feel like it was there in that fight. And I hope for his sake that that's just a new version of him. I hope that he's matured, and for his sake that when he's in deep waters, and when he's when he's in an adverse position, that he knows he's got that in him to dig deep and drag himself out, if that makes sense. Now, with these two fighting each other, like, I feel like Kelvin Gastelum is someone that we all know his base is wrestling, but he doesn't really use it. He prefers to strike, and he believes in his striking ability. And why shouldn't he? Because he did that with Israel Adesanya, and fuck me, he did really well against Israel Adesanya. And we're talking about a man who's Israel Adesanya, who's a world champion kickboxer. That's his fucking discipline. That's his game, and he fought him in his own domain, and he put in a really, really, really strong account of himself. And you have to take your hats off to him for that. And it's a similar sort of scenario here, where I'd say Darren Till's, obviously his main strength is his striking. Will Darren Till's power translate into the middleweight division? Will he be able to hurt Kelvin Gastelum the way he's able to hurt welterweights when he was fighting in that division? I don't know. I have no idea. But these are just things that I'm thinking about this particular fight. I don't know if Kelvin Gastelum's gonna rely on his wrestling. I feel like he's gonna rely on his movement and his speed, and he's gonna try and get in and out, and he's gonna try and stand with Darren Till. Now, will Darren Till be able to control his own emotions? Will he be able to control where his head's at? Will he not overextend himself? Will he stay disciplined like he should have against Jorge Masvidal but didn't? Like he should have against Tyrone Woodley but he didn't? Will he be able to keep a grip of himself effectively? And I feel like that's where the fight will be won or lost by Darren Till, because if he isn't able to keep a hold of that, I think Kelvin Gastelum will take advantage. However, even if Darren Till was able to maintain his discipline the same way he did against Wonderboy, that doesn't guarantee him the victory, because Kelvin Gastelum's a whole different kind of animal. He's got more kind of tools in his toolbox compared to Wonderboy, because Wonderboy, we knew he was just going to strike with Darren Till. But with Gastelum, like, if he's losing the exchanges on his feet, he can always go for that double leg. He can always try and push him up against the cage. And so Darren Till needs to be wary of that. I've I've always kind of bet against Kelvin Gastelum, and as an English bloke, I want Darren Till to win. I'm a big Darren Till fan. I'm a big supporter. I'm a big believer. I just feel like with Darren Till moving up to middleweight and fighting someone like Kelvin Gastelum, I feel like that might just be just a stretch too far for him. I would have liked it if he had a different opponent, and if he used this as an opportunity to test himself to see whether he feels right at this weight. But I feel like Kelvin Gastelum, his experience and his just his familiarity with fighting at this weight class, and having faced the kind of opponents he has in the middleweight division, I feel like Kelvin Gastelum is going to get it done here. I don't know how, but I want to say he might finish Darren Till, or it might be just a unanimous kind of points decision. Like I say, look, full disclosure, I'm a fan of the sport at the end of the day. I've got nothing against Kelvin Gastelum, but I want Darren Till to win. And he does genuinely have a chance to win this fight, because Kelvin Gastelum has been hurt. You've seen Kelvin Gastelum hit the deck on a number of occasions. So I'm not saying Darren Till doesn't have the power or the skill to do that. I'm not saying this is like a foregone conclusion that Kelvin Gastelum is going to win. I feel like this is like a 55-45 fight in the favour of Kelvin Gastelum. But I'm intrigued. I'm excited to see it, man. I'm excited to see how Darren Till looks at this weight. Like I say, I just feel like he's taking on a lot, moving up and facing Kelvin Gastelum in his debut as a middleweight, and that might be where he falls short, unfortunately, for me as a fan of Darren Till. Having said that, don't count Darren Till out. Like I said, I feel like it's a 55-45 fight. So Darren Till has every opportunity to win this fight. Don't be surprised if he wins this fight. It's just for the sake of this video, I've got to make a prediction, and my prediction is Kelvin Gastelum. Let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button. If you've enjoyed this video, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you guys on the next one.